Hello everyone. Today we're having banana bread. Wrong kind. We are making homemade banana bread and I am so excited. So, first off, we're going to start with our dry ingredients: flour, sugar, baking soda, baking powder, and salt. And then over here are our wet ingredients: bananas, butter, lemon juice. I forgot to put out my 2 eggs, and milk. Mind the expiration date. We are cutting it close. Next, we're going to preheat our oven to 325 degrees. And we're going to start with a bowl and a spatula, and we're going to be mixing together our dry ingredients. Flour is our first ingredient. We are going to be measuring 2 cups of flour. And just like Teacher Mike has taught all of us, we want to make sure and use some sort of level. I like to use a knife to scrape off excess flour and make a nice clean scoop. So there is 1 scoop. And my second scoop, same thing, fill it up and level it off. Our next dry ingredient is baking powder. And I realized I do not have a teaspoon. I couldn't find it anywhere in my kitchen, so I'm using a 1/2 teaspoon. This recipe calls for 1.5 teaspoons total, so I am going to be adding 3.5 teaspoons of baking powder. So there's 1, and the second one, and a third one, equaling 1.5 teaspoons. The next ingredient is baking soda, and that is just a 1/2 teaspoon. Next, we are going to be adding some salt. This one is a 1/4 teaspoon, so just a little bit of salt. And after this, all we have to do is just mix it up in a bowl. It doesn't take very long, just want to combine all of the ingredients together. Nice and easy. And then you want to set this aside because we are going to be adding it in later. So I'm going to take my second bowl, and using the same spatula to save some dishes, we're going to add some butter, 1/2 cup of butter. We are going to add 1 cup of sugar. And also, another tip from our teacher Mike, we can level off sugar as well. So I'll scoop the excess back into my container and then just add the 1 cup to the bowl. And the directions say to cream the butter and the sugar together. I would usually use a hand mixer for this. I don't know what supplies everyone has at home, and so I thought it would be best just to use my hand and use a bowl, just in case people don't have mixers or other appliances. The video's a little shaky because I'm shaking the table, sorry. This is what it'll start to look like. It starts to kind of form together. It might take you a few minutes to kind of make sure it's all really blended up nicely. And then it'll look like this kind of in the end with the butter and sugar. A little bit clumpy, but not too bad. You're gonna add your eggs 1 at a time. And same thing, if you're using an electric mixer or a stand mixer, you would only have to do this for a few seconds, but since we're doing it by hand, I like to try to do it for a little bit longer. And then we are going to add the second egg in and do the same thing. Just try to mix it up really nicely so you can no longer see the egg yolk. And this is what your mixture is going to look like after that is all mixed up. Next, we are going to add a cup or about just 1 full banana. You want to use a fork for this. Makes it easy. Mash, 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 mash. And then you're just gonna scoop those mashed bananas into your mixer. This is a great recipe because sometimes it's hard to go through bananas if they go bad quickly. So this is a great recipe for really ripe bananas. I have my liquid measuring cup here. I'm going to be adding the next ingredient, which is a 1/4 cup of milk. And that will go right into the bowl. Our next ingredient is going to be lemon juice. I have a bottle of it. You can also use a fresh lemon if you want to. Again, I don't have a full teaspoon, so I'm going to be putting in 2 halves because the recipe calls for 1 total teaspoon. So that is my lemon juice. And then we are just going to mix everything up together. We're also going to add our flour mixture that we set aside. So now every single ingredient is all in one bowl together. And this is our entire banana bread mixture. You can also add, if you want to, pecans or walnuts, if you like that in your bread. You're welcome to add that in here, or you can sprinkle it on top before you bake it. I'll just show you here what it's gonna look like after it's all mixed up. Kind of like a little bit thicker than a brownie batter or something similar. I've got a loaf pan with some cooking spray. You can also use a cupcake tin if you do not have a loaf pan, and you could make these out of cupcakes. You can make cupcakes out of these. Another tip too is that you do not want to spray the sides of the baking pan because it will be non-stick, which it's supposed to, but if you put it on the sides, the banana bread mixture will actually not be able to rise. It'll keep slipping, and so your banana bread will turn out flat sometimes. So it's good just to try and get the bottom of your pan. And then you want to just kind of press the mixture down. It'll probably take off about half of your pan. And then if you're doing it in a muffin tin or a cupcake tin, you're going to fill it about halfway full, and you're just going to cook it for half as long, which is in the instructions. So you're going to set it on the center rack of your pre-baked oven, and then we are going to set the timer for, the recipe says 55 to 60 minutes, and I always like to start with a lower number so that we can check it, and we can always set the timer for longer so it doesn't overbake. And at 55 minutes, I am really happy with how it looks. It should be a little bit brown on top. To test it, we can use a toothpick or a fork. I have a fork handy. It should come out clean. If you see any doughy center or any dough mixture, you should probably do it for longer. This is my cutting board trick. This is how I get the banana bread out of the pan. I just kind of shake it onto a cutting board, and it does not always work. So I'm gonna flip it over and use my knife to cut out the edges and try to help it out just a little bit. And then we're going to do the exact same thing, put the cutting board on top of the pan, flip it over, and then shake it just a little bit to try and get the banana bread all the way out. Let's see if this one worked. Yes, nice. Then I'll just turn it over, and we have some banana bread. It shouldn't be doughy in the middle. I'll just cut through it so you can see it. And there we go.